Marcus, Mosiah, forward and lead thy people out of Babylon.
They trying to send us another Moses, but making me down the inner him bed a roses. Send them on. They trying to send us another Jesus Christ, but we were and the man they betrayed for upon a rise. That's the man we really wanna see. They preaching about black unity. They preaching about black dignity. The United Negro Improvement Association, and to help black people in their troubled time. Yet still they're trying to send us another Moses fever, making it on the inner him did a roses. Send him on. They're trying to send us another Jesus Christ, but we want the man they betrayed for upon a rise. That's the man we really wanna see. Go there now. God taught us to be dignified and proud of being black. He taught us that Africa was where it's at. Moses never knew about that. Yet still they're trying to send us another Moses, but making it on the inner him bed a roses. Send him on. They're trying to send us another Jesus Christ, so we want a man they betrayed for upon a rise. That's the man we really wanna see. Forward to deliver all our we. Send him on. Go there now. Forward. That's the man we really wanna see. Forward to deliver all our we. Send him on.
Tendai Wadi. Garvey lives. Garvey lives. Garvey lives. Messiah lives. Messiah lives. Messiah lives. Ele. Tendai Wadi. Greetings. Greetings, African kings and queens, in the precious, powerful, and bountiful name of our motherland. The sacred spirits of our most gracious ancestors, in their prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people on the face of Mother Earth. Giving thanks and praise to sisters and brothers, welcome to another Messiah session hosted by the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement. This is the 8th month of the year, sisters and brothers, which we have reclaimed time, space, and circumstance. We don't call this month August anymore. We call this the month of Messiah, after the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. So the 8th month of the year we call Messiah. We affirm Messiah. We affirm Messiah for the last 25 years, sisters and brothers. This is 25 years of the Messiah season, 31 days of celebrating the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. We give thanks and praises eternally, sisters and brothers, and we give thanks for you for joining us here this evening on another Messiah session. We give thanks and praises for those who attended our session so far. We open up the season with our opening ceremony on the 6th of Messiah, and we gathered a few days ago, 2 days ago, for Messiah Day, the birthday of the prophet. We've been having our Messiah sessions live on galaxyafiri.net every Monday, every good evening between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m., which is summertime, so called. And tonight, sisters and brothers, we have a very special session of Messiah in the Motherland. But as I've said, this is the Messiah season. Messiah has certain rituals and practices and customs that we establish in the Messiah season. And one of them is what we call the Messiah affirmations, which is simply every day of the month of Messiah, we recite an affirmation, the word, sound, and power of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. And we also accompany that with a commentary by our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka, the visionary who brought us the Messiah season back in the year so-called 1998. So give thanks and praise for that, sisters and brothers. So what I'm going to do right now, without further ado, is go into the affirmation for today, day 19 of Messiah. And we follow the affirmation with a children's memory verse, because Messiah is a whole family occasion, sisters and brothers. So let me just go over to the affirmation, sisters and brothers, which is the day of day 19. And the affirmation for today, sisters and brothers, is called, appropriately enough, African race purity. And Papa Garvey, the prophet, says, insist on a campaign of race purity. That is, doing everything moral and social within the race. Close ranks against all other races. It is a disgrace to mix your race with other races. To split up the race is unwholesome and does not tend to morally dignify the race. It will be a beautiful thing when we have a standard African race. Never allow any other race to preside over your affairs. They must never have executive control over your affairs, because they will always say and do things to suit themselves and against your interest. Though they profess the greatest friendship, if they swear on the Bible, don't believe them. If they swear in God, don't believe them. Their interest can never be yours, be they European, Asiatic, Jews, or whatever. Such is the wisdom of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey. We say hail to the proud word, hail to the proud word, hail to the power of the word, sisters and brothers. And we accompany the affirmation and his word sounds with the commentary from our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka, and who says, the world is divided into races, and our people are at the bottom of every economic and social stratum in every continent upon the earth. We are the most beleaguered and exploited of all peoples. Race purity is therefore a call to end this plight by harnessing our best attributes towards the complete redemption and exaltation of our race. We must own our cultural mediums, our arts, our music, our dance, our literature. We must use them to promote African race purity. We must ensure that we are the only beneficiaries of the economic viability. We must preserve them for our children. It is theirs to invest in, not ours to squander. Sisters and brothers, we give thanks and praises for the word, sound, and power of Brother Leader Bandaka. We say hail to the proud word, hail to the proud word, hail to the proud word, sisters and brothers. And as I said earlier, Messiah is a whole family observance. We engage the children, so just as the elders, the adults, the babbas and mamas will read the affirmation for the day, our totos have a memory verse that they recite 3 times, which is really to engage them on the power of Messiah. So without further ado, I'm going to bring forward Princess Kianga, who's going to do the affirmation.
Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa.
Tell them why.
Tell them why.
3 times.
Okay. Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Let us work towards the one glorious end of a free, redeemed, and mighty nation. Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Let us work towards the one glorious end of a free, redeemed, and mighty nation. Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Let us work towards the one glorious end of a free, redeemed, and mighty nation. Turn my mind.
Right. Give thanks to sisters and brothers to tender Princess Kianga for that rendition of the children's memory verse, sisters and brothers. So yes, this is the Messiah season, hosted, as I said before, by the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement. More details, sisters and brothers, go to alkebu-lan.org and you get the full season and the full details of all the events that are coming up in throughout the rest of this month, sisters and brothers. Now, without further ado, that's my duties over with. Just to say the format's going to be, we're going to go into, sisters and brothers, Messiah in the Motherland. So we're going to hear from activists on the ground in Mama Africa, chanting the name and organizing in the name, in the spirit, in the essence, in the energy of Marcus Messiah Garvey and the UNIA-ACL. That's going to be our program, and we're going to round off, sisters and brothers, with a summary from our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka. So stay tuned for that, sisters and brothers. But without further ado, I want to hand over to our young lion, who's going to be taking us forward for the remainder of the session, sisters and brothers. And I just need to say before, he's going to speak about the format and the structure. But I need to say a few words about our young brother, Shakara, who's coming up right now. I think the season this year wouldn't have been what it is without the input of Brother Shakara. He's worked very hard on this season. And Shakara is, we have to say and have to affirm, an internationally renowned intellectual of African culture and science. You see him on Gokkush TV. You see him all over the internet, sisters and brothers, flying the flag for Pan-Africanism and Messiahism, African fundamentalism. As a young man of keen insight and of commitment, born and raised in Liberation Road, and this is what we train our young people for. And I'll give thanks and praises because a lot of the connections for this evening session were made by our brother Shakara as well, who is, I should add, a graduate of the School of African Philosophy, sisters and brothers. So that indeed is a worthy accolade to bestow on a young brother. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to brother Shakara. Tell them my brother Shakara.
Tell them worry, Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Messiah lives.
Messiah lives.
All right. Tell them worry and greetings and give thanks, Uncle Olatunji. And yeah, you know, it's my duty to hail the leadership of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement for initiating the celebration of this month called Mosiah, which is in its 25th year of observance and celebration. Let me let you know, kings and queens, that this event is not a one-off. Yeah, we are going to be gathering also next week, near day Thursday, for the event. Yeah, 100 years of philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey. Okay. And so do stay tuned for this on the 24th of Mosiah, next week, near day Thursday, 7 p.m. BST and 2 p.m. EST. And also on the 27th, I'm trying to get the flyer up for you, kings and queens, at least stay tuned. But we also have our sister Sheila Brown, who will be delivering an honor to our Queen Mama, Amy Jakes Garvey, on the 27th of the month, called Mosiah also. All right. So we have a slight delay in the beginning of our discussion today due to the fact that, first and foremost, our brother Chief Fode and sister Kenya, who are in Sierra Leone, who really are the axis around which the links for today's conversation were made, are unfortunately experiencing lights out in Freetown. Okay, and these are some of the challenges of organizing on the continent and in the Caribbean. All right, and so it is unlikely, very unlikely that they'll be able to join us for today's session. However, they'll do their best, but their lights, they've been told, may not come back until tomorrow or even Kulisha Gulia Day, Monday. Okay, so this is not an irrelevant dynamic as it relates to our conversation today, because these are some of the challenges of having to organize on the motherland, as I said already. All right, and our other guests, we are scheduled to have guests from, and I will save their names for when they come, but we are scheduled to have guests from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Ghana joining us, but they are yet to have come through yet, and I'm doing my best to try and get through to them in the background. However, in the meantime, between time, I do think it would be prudent and appropriate, for us to hear from our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka, especially in relation to the month of Mosiah, okay, and its founding and what it is and what it represents. So let us do that now, and as we try to bring our guests through one by one, and stay with us, kings and queens. We're doing our best in the background to make sure everybody comes through. But as I said, this is some of the challenges of organizing internationally in general, and with Africans in the Caribbean and the continent in particular. I just say it got some time, kings and queens, but we will do our best anyway. And with that, let me bring through the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, Tendai Mwari.
Tendai
Brother
Mwari.
leader.
Tendai Mwari. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
You live.
He lives.
Greetings, brother leader.
Greetings, Brother Shakara, and greetings also to Brother Olatunji, and
Greetings,
to all our
greetings.
beloved and treasured listeners and viewers this evening. Tendai Mwari, should I just complete my greetings by saying I bring greetings in the most precious, powerful, and bountiful name of our motherland, Alkebu-Lan, Mama Africa, in the sacred spirits of our most gracious ancestors, and in a prayer for oneness, hope, and prosperity for all African people upon the face of Mother Earth. The Rumbidzo Kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. It is a joy to be an African and a joy to be on this network this evening, ministering to the most important and the most beautiful people on the planet, the sons and daughters of Africa, as we observe 31 days in celebration and commemoration of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Probably 25th year of the celebration, of There is some serious feedback. Just give the viewers an idea of the reason, for establishing an observance such as Mosiah and the role that it plays in the forward march of African sovereignty, African liberation. Tendai Mwari.
Well, Tendai Mwari, well, first and foremost, we remind ourselves that all great people celebrate and honor the outstanding contributors to their history. And for us as African people worldwide, there is none greater, none more abundant in his gifts to Africa, to the empowerment and the redemption of Africa and African people at home and abroad. None more prolific in what he gave to us, what he produced and created on our behalf and in our name as African people, than the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And being a movement, as the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement is, as a liberation movement based upon an African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy, an authentic African-centered spiritual cultural philosophy called Alkebu-Lan Livity, which means living according to the divine teachings and traditions of our mother culture, and being at the same time, and in that context, also adherent to the ideology and the philosophy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It was clear to us that understanding the tremendous value and impact of Papa Garvey's legacy, understanding that Papa Garvey indeed gave us the black print for our liberation. We talk about black print rather than blueprint, to say he gave us the template. He gave us the genetic structure, if you will, for us as a people to go forward and forge the whatever political, economic, social, scientific, technological, etc., action that is required to bring about our liberation. And so we felt it was necessary, given the abundance in value and importance of the legacy of Papa Garvey, that we should have a observance of Papa Garvey's legacy throughout the month of the 8th month of the year, which we now call Mosiah rather than August. And we call it Mosiah rather than August, and that should be readily clear to all our people, because we are the descendants, we are the spirit and mission children of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We aim to fulfill his vision. We are profoundly inspired by him. And since we understand as Africans of a free mind, we understand that a free people define time, space, and circumstances for themselves. And so, realizing that we are not the descendants of Augustus Caesar in any way, shape, or form, Augustus Caesar, that murderous Roman emperor, that oppressive Roman emperor. We are not the descendants. We are not the spirit and mission children of Emperor Augustus Caesar, but we are indeed the spirit and mission children of Papa Garvey. We decided that we must define this time period and every space we occupy as Mosiah and events celebrating and observing the legacy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So that was the inspiration that brought about the observance, and we called it in the year so-called 1997, although that would be 6237 in our ancient Kemetian ancestral calendar. That would be the year 6237. We called it, and then in the year 6238, we had our first observance, making this year the 25th anniversary of the observance of Mosiah for 31 days of the 8th month of the year. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, give thanks for that, brother leader. If memory serves me correctly, I mean, the message you outlined in 6237 was called how long should I kill our prophets and stand aside and look? reparations now, I believe the message was called, at our old family forum. But as you said, it brought into being in the year so-called 1998. How was, in your recollection, how was Messiah received back then in 1998 and in the early days, and compared to how it's been received now? How has it changed? How has it evolved? How has it grown?
Tendai Mwari, it's been received very well in many quarters in our community, and I might say even beyond the bounds of Africa UK. We tend to refer to this place in which we are domiciled as African people as Africa UK, so that we create that sense of Africanizing every space that we occupy. So in Africa UK, we recognize that the spirit of Messiah has gone beyond the bounds of Africa UK, and we know it has captured the imagination and touched the souls of Africans who have connected with the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement. So we generally we are pleased everywhere that this celebration is recognized and observed by our people. But we would like to see it mushroom much more throughout the African world. We would like to see a resounding synthesis of celebrations and observance, rather in the vein of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa consistently is growing, and we have at least 40 million people worldwide who observe and celebrate Kwanzaa, and there's a particular structure and outline. The power of that is that we synchronize at that time of the year, and I would love to see a global synchrony of observance and practices amongst our people around the celebration of the life and legacy of Papa Garvey. That said, there are observances which take place around the African world, not necessarily called under the name Messiah in the way we do it here in the UK, but nonetheless, we know that in parts of the motherland, and we're going to be exploring some of that this evening. We know that in the Caribbean, we know that in the Americas, and certainly here in the UK and in other parts of Europe, that the life and legacy of Papa Garvey is duly observed. And as I said, all great people celebrate and commemorate the life and the legacy of the outstanding contributors to their history. And so we as a people would do ourselves a grave injustice. Remember, we say that Papa Garvey gave us the black print for our liberation, not a black print, but the black print. The black print for our liberation. Therefore, if we are not studying the black print and informing ourselves of the black print and being guided by the black print, then our future does not bode well for us as a people. For the only template for our liberation that we have is that which has been laid down for us by Papa Garvey, which is fundamentally based on the principles of race first, self-reliance, nationhood or nation building, and African spiritual orthodoxy. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, give thanks.
Tendai Mwari, give thanks for that introduction, brother leader. We have two of our guests in the background now, so I'm gonna give you a break. And we'll certainly come back to you at the close of the session. All right.
Can I just quickly, brother Shakara, just hold up our Messiah Daily Affirmation, and just to say that we've created this little book to guide us through the 31 days of observance and celebration of Papa Garvey's life and legacy, and each day has an affirmation, which are the words of Papa Garvey, accompanied by a commentary from myself as a spiritual leader of this organization. So we go to our shrines each day and we observe a devotion, part of which would be reading the affirmation, one of the 31 affirmations, the appropriate one for the day. And finally, within this Messiah affirmation, we also have 31 memory verses for our children. And we heard Princess Kianga in such powerful spirit read the affirmation for today. So I just wanted to share that with our viewers this evening. Give thanks
for that, brother leader. I'll put you in the back chat for now. And I would like to introduce a brother and a sister. Now, brothers and sisters, in hosting shows such as this, one of the barriers that we have to overcome is the language barrier. Yeah. And so I'm going to introduce brother Kayende, who is currently residing in Burkina Faso. But as I introduce him, Burkina Faso in West Africa, the land of upright people, the land of Baba Thomas Sankara. Yes. But as I introduce him, I'm also going to introduce our sister. Yeah. Our sister Bakuma. Yes. Who is joining us because our brother speaks French and requires an interpreter. And so I hollered at our sister Bakuma, and she so graciously was able and willing to bless us with her presence to perform this function. So let us introduce our brother Kayende and also our sister Bakuma.
Greetings.
Greetings, sister.
Greetings, brother Kayende. Can you hear us?
Yes, I heard. Oui.
Enchanté de
All right. Okay. So.
Oui, bonsoir. Comment vous allez?
How are you guys?
We are fine.
Doing good.
On va très bien.
Ok, super. C'est Monsieur
I'm grateful for your presence.
de Burkina Faso.
Il te remercie pour ta présence. Tu disais pour le Burkina Faso, frère?
Je suis Monsieur Kayande du Burkina Faso.
My name is Kayende from Burkina Faso.
Je suis très content d'être parmi vous.
I'm very pleased to be with you tonight.
Et très heureux de contribuer à l'évolution de la vie de notre chère patrie.
And he's very pleased to share his knowledge to make sure that the country will evolve.
Thank you very much. Okay. Merci. All right. So my brother, let's us first get some kind of understanding of how you come to know and learn about Marcus Garvey and why he is an inspiration for you.
Alors mon frère, là, il va te demander d'expliquer comment et pourquoi Marcus Garvey est devenu une inspiration pour toi.
Ok, merci pour la question que je trouve vraiment intéressante.
Thank you for this very interesting question.
Alors, il faut dire que Marcus Garvey est une inspiration pour tout Africain qui aspire au bien-être donc de la communauté africaine.
First thing first, Marcus Garvey should be an inspiration for all African people who want Africa to rise.
En ce sens que c'est une personnalité qui a donné toute sa vie pour l'évolution de la communauté noire.
He literally gave his life for the Black community to know its history and be strong.
Alors, tout jeune Africain qui aspire donc au développement de notre continent doit effectivement avoir pour idole ce grand homme.
So every young African people who want to develop Africa, who want the best for Africa, should have Marcus Garvey as an idol.
Donc, c'est effectivement, de manière résumée, ce que je peux dire, mes motivations, ce qui m'a poussé à prendre pour ce monsieur comme vraiment un idole. C'est l'amour que j'ai à développer notre continent qui m'amène à avoir pour idole Mr. Garvey.
So as he just explained, for himself, it was the case. The love he had for the African continent made him follow the Garvey steps.
Okay. And how did what steps did he take to learn about Marcus Garvey? Did he read books? Did he listen to other people's speeches? What steps did he take?
Comment est-ce que tu as fait pour connaître et découvrir Marcus Garvey? Est-ce que tu as lu des livres? Est-ce que tu as entendu ses discours? Comment est-ce que ça s'est passé?
Alors, il faut dire que c'est depuis le lycée que nous avons, en étudiant et ces personnalités qui ont beaucoup contribué dans l'histoire donc du peuple noir, que nous avons découvert ce monsieur et ensuite nous avons continué donc par des recherches et effectivement actuellement la lutte pour l'émancipation du continent fait que nous avons pas mal d'informations sur sa personne. Voilà, donc c'est à travers donc mes recherches personnelles ajoutées que j'ai découvert davantage Marcus Garvey. Sinon, depuis le lycée, nous avons eu des bonnes informations sur sa personne.
Well, since high school, he had like a course of African leaders. So that's when he first discovered Marcus Garvey. And then when he grew up, he started his own research. And now personally, he reads books and he tried to make sure that all the information that we can have now access with internet and everything, he just makes sure that he have all the knowledge about Marcus Garvey.
Okay. And please let our brother know, I became knowledgeable of him through our connection with Chief Fode in Sierra Leone. How did he become connected to Chief Fode?
Donc, il explique qu'il t'a connu à travers Chief Fode en Sierra Leone. Comment est-ce que toi, tu as connu cette personne-là?
Oh, il faut dire que c'est par l'engagement à travers donc nos publications sur les réseaux sociaux pour la lutte donc de l'émancipation, voilà, l'évolution de notre continent que nous nous sommes rencontrés sur les réseaux sociaux, notamment sur Facebook. Voilà,
tu l'as déjà rencontré physiquement ou seulement sur les réseaux sociaux?
Non, pas physiquement, c'est uniquement sur nos réseaux sociaux. Nous avons des groupes que nous partageons en commun, notamment des groupes de lutte pour l'émancipation de notre continent.
So basically, they never met in person, but the ideology they have make that the social media they have, both of them, make them have a connection and have an interest for each of them. So basically, that's how they get to know each other.
Okay, good, beautiful. And what work is our brother engaged in Burkina Faso at the moment, trying to spread the Garveyite message and works of African liberation?
I didn't hear you well. Can you please rephrase?
No problem. I was asking what work is our brother engaged in Burkina Faso right now, trying to spread the Garveyite message as well as the message and the work of African liberation.
Qu'est-ce que le frère fait actuellement sur le continent? Quelles sont les actions qui sont faites actuellement pour justement diffuser le message et propager l'émancipation du continent?
Ok. Donc, merci pour la question. Effectivement, je l'ai déjà abordé. Et actuellement, ce que nous faisons, c'est des campagnes de sensibilisation, notamment approcher nos camarades pour leur faire comprendre le bien fondé de prendre connaissance de leur histoire, voilà, de la civilisation kamite, afin donc de faire évoluer la lutte. Donc, ce que nous faisons, c'est des campagnes de sensibilisation, notamment dans les villes, Et pour ce qui est des écoles et universités, nous organisons donc souvent des conférences que nous faisons venir des professeurs qui donnent donc des conférences sur le panafricanisme pour donc amener cette jeunesse-là à comprendre le bien fondé du panafricanisme, le bien fondé d'être des Africains nobles, des Africains intègres, donc pour faire évoluer le continent. Voilà. En plus de cela, bon, je vais vous laisser traduire ça d'abord et puis revenir. Allez-y.
So it says that they used to raise campaign to raise awareness of the youth back home, mostly in school and in uni. They do have some teachers who give some lessons and conferences, so the young people will understand how it is important to get back to our knowledge, including the Kemetic civilization until now, to understand why and how it's important to know our history and to love Africa and to love Black people.
Walter, maintenant, étant donné que nous sommes dans un continent où effectivement il y a une forte communauté qui n'ont pas fait les écoles et autres, nous leur approchons de manière physique pour leur passer également le message. Voilà, nous avons également des groupes WhatsApp où nous essayons, groupe WhatsApp, groupe Facebook, où nous essayons de réunir donc nos différents frères pour leur passer régulièrement des messages donc afin qu'ils puissent être suffisamment outillés et des valeurs africaines.
Okay, so the brothers goes on saying that unfortunately in the continent many people doesn't have access to education. So the way for them to touch them with the word they have spreading is through social media or WhatsApp groups, and then they make sure that they're always going to have the information and the knowledge.
Beautiful. My brother, just give us 1 second. I'm going to do some housekeeping, okay, for the show. Brothers and sisters, you're tuned into a Messiah session hosted by the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement. Our session today is Messiah in the Motherland. We are scheduled to be speaking to Garveyite activists specifically those on and from the continent of Mama Africa. This includes those who are repatriates and those who are born and raised on the continent. And unfortunately, our brother Chief Fode and Sister Kenya, who are in Sierra Leone, who coordinated a lot of our guests today, are unable to join us because it's currently lights out in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And if you've ever been to the continent and spent any time there, you know what lights out is all about. In Ghana, we call it Dumso, you know what I'm saying? I just say it, God, and these are some of the challenges that we have to face, and they're very unlikely to be able to join us. However, we do have our brother Kayende joining us, who is a Garveyite activist in Burkina Faso. Yes, the land of upright people, the nation of Baba Thomas Sankara. Yes, we are also scheduled to be joined, and I said I won't say their names until they come, but from Ghana as well as Nigeria, we are scheduled to receive guests. But for now, we have the ancestors will have it, our brother from Burkina Faso, as well as our sister Bakuma, who is from Cameroon, if I'm not mistaken. Cameroon, correct?
Let's say Central Africa.
Central Africa, all right. I understand. I understand. Right?
The name they gave to countries doesn't match anything.
I understand. I stand completely corrected and embrace what you just said. But for the sake of our viewers, my sister, just introduce yourself and who you are, what you do, and so on and so forth.
Oh, well, I'm born and raised in France. Used to live in London for a few years. I'm a Pan-African activist here in France, and also when I try to travel to Africa at least once or twice a year, try to make sure that the connection between brothers and sisters in the continent is still done. And obviously the connection is now from France to the UK and Burkina Faso. So it's all about love and gratitude. So
Indeed. Funny story, kings and queens. Sister Bakuma was in London for like 3 years, and it took for her to get back to France before I met her and connected with her. Right, so I just All right.
Exactly.
And I want to thank you again, my sister, for taking on this duty at such short notice as well. You've been a gem, yeah, for us.
No worries.
We thank you. Right now, back to Brother Kayende. As I've said, you are from the nation of Thomas Sankara. Yes. Is he familiar? Are you familiar with the legacy of Thomas Sankara, and what inspiration has that provided for your life and your work?
Alors, mon frère, ici, le frère te dit que tu fais partie de l'héritage de Thomas Sankara, tu viens du pays de Thomas Sankara. Comment est-ce que son travail a pu inspirer tes actions aujourd'hui?
Ok, merci pour vraiment la question que nous saluons. Alors, il faut dire que Thomas Sankara disait que tu es Sankara et il en naîtra des milliers. Donc, effectivement, nous sommes la justification de cette noble pensée qu'il a eu à traduire.
So Thomas Sankara used to say that if you kill Sankara, thousands of Sankara will rise. So we are the perfect legacy he was talking about. Oui, continue mon frère, je t'écoute.
Ok, alors il faut dire qu'aujourd'hui, nous sommes conscients et nous avons pris conscience de tout ce que disait Thomas Sankara, notamment donc et au plan idéologique, politique, au plan même civilisationnel. Et c'est ce que donc nous prônons aujourd'hui. Voilà, notamment promouvoir nos valeurs endogènes parce que nous sommes convaincus que, comme le disait Thomas Sankara, c'est la voie idéale donc pour notre développement, notre épanouissement. Voilà, donc aujourd'hui, je peux dire que c'est le chemin tracé par notre aîné Thomas Sankara que nous avons emprunté et que nous sommes convaincus que ce chemin-là va nous amener donc sur le développement, en fait. C'est ce que je peux dire de manière résumée.
So he says that obviously he's aware of all the political and engagement that Thomas Sankara had, the ideology he had, the concern about the African civilization, and the return to the African value, the African roots. And it's in this way that him and the people around him, his organization, are still try to go back to the African roots, African civilization, African way to live as a society. And they understood that it was the way, as Thomas Sankara said, is the way for Africa to develop and rise again. So
Beautiful.
This is what he can say about what the legacy he had from Thomas Sankara and how it affects his journey now.
Beautiful. So based upon what you have just said, my brother, could you give us an example? When you say the African way to live, yeah, could you give us an example of what Africans on the continent and specifically in the nation of Burkina Faso need to be instituting in order to return to our original way of life?
Alors, mon frère, comme tu as parlé de retrouver les valeurs africaines, est-ce que tu peux nous donner des exemples de ce qui se fait au quotidien en Afrique et surtout au Burkina Faso qui vont rejoindre ce que tu disais sur le fait qu'on doit retourner à nos valeurs africaines pour être sûr que l'Afrique se développe? Quels sont les exemples que tu peux nous citer?
Je n'ai pas bien compris la question, s'il vous plaît.
Alors, tu disais que par rapport à Thomas Sankara, ce que tu avais compris et l'héritage qu'il avait laissé, c'était qu'il fallait retourner aux valeurs africaines, des valeurs endogènes.
C'est ça.
Donc maintenant, comment est-ce qu'au quotidien, tu pratiques cette façon de retourner aux valeurs endogènes, aux valeurs africaines, surtout au Burkina Faso?
Ok, merci vraiment pour la question. Si on dit que la meilleure éducation se fait par exemplarité, c'est-à-dire que nous devons donner l'exemple de ce que nous véhiculons comme message. Alors, ce que nous faisons au quotidien, c'est d'essayer au maximum de vivre selon nos normes, c'est-à-dire nos valeurs propres à nous. Voilà. Alors, ça commence à partir donc de la spiritualité. Voilà, notre spiritualité ancestrale. Donc, il faut dire que nous sommes nés chrétiens. Et à partir du moment où nous avons pris connaissance de notre histoire et de la nécessité de retourner aux sources, nous avons abandonné ces religions dites révélées ou étrangères pour embrasser notre tradition. Donc ça, c'est un fait fondamental que je peux d'abord relever.
So he said generally the return to the African spiritualities. Most of us are born and raised as a Christian or Muslim, but as soon as we understood that it clearly was not meant to us, it was destroying us, what we did first is to go back to the African spirituality and practice the African spirituality daily.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right. I have a question. It would be wrong of us to have our brother here from Burkina Faso and not ask him about the current politics, that is taking place in Burkina Faso. All right. So I wonder if our brother has any comment upon the recent developments in Burkina Faso and anything that he wants the African diaspora to understand about what is taking place on the ground in Burkina Faso at the moment as it relates to the situations in Guinea, Niger, Mali, and the rest of ECOWAS.
Alors, le frère explique que ce serait dommage qu'on ne parle pas de la situation politique actuelle au Burkina Faso. Alors, qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous apprendre, nous qui sommes loin, qui ne sommes pas sur le continent, sur la situation politique actuelle et aussi peut-être les enjeux qui se font maintenant avec la situation qui se passe au Niger ou au Mali? Qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous apprendre sur la situation actuelle du Burkina Faso?
Ok, merci. Alors, il faut dire que la situation sociopolitique au Burkina Faso et en particulier et de manière générale dans la sous-région, notamment au Niger et au Mali, est vraiment très tendue du fait des attaques régulières des groupes terroristes. Alors, ces groupes terroristes donc qui régulièrement endeuillent donc des populations pour faire donc passer leur idéologie, ce que nous qualifions généralement d'une autre forme d'impérialisme, parce que ce sont des mouvements qui sont organisés, financés donc par de grandes puissances donc pour asseoir leur domination dans la sous-région. Maintenant, ce qu'il faut dire, c'est que nous avons eu cette grâce-là d'avoir, dans ces dernières années, des dirigeants qui sont arrivés et qui ont décidé de rompre avec donc les anciennes manières de faire. Voilà. Alors, nous avons initié des politiques endogènes, notamment recruter parmi la population ou encore appeler la population à s'engager dans cette lutte contre donc, le terrorisme. Et c'est effectif. Voilà. Actuellement, on peut dire que la peur a changé de camp parce que l'armée burkinabé est en train de prendre ou encore a pris le dessus sur ces groupes terroristes-là. Et franchement dit, on peut dire que les choses s'améliorent et chaque jour. Voilà, les choses s'améliorent chaque jour. Et il faut dire que ces groupes terroristes-là également ne baissent pas les bras, mais nous sommes convaincus de la politique qu'a initiée nos dirigeants et nous leur soutenons parce que nous sommes convaincus que c'est au bout de l'effort que nous allons tirer notre épingle du jeu.
Et par rapport à la situation au Niger, c'est plus par rapport aux terroristes ou à la France? Alors, I'm going to translate the first part. So the brother said that the social and political situation, either in Burkina Faso or this area around the Niger, is very tough because of terrorist attack. And those terrorist groups are organized and financed by bigger organization who want to have the bigger control all over the area. So as a matter of fact, as he said, they want the fear to change the camp. So they want the youth people and the youth men and women to get involved in politics because they are aware that the politic organization they have now are not doing anything for the people. So I asked him another question regarding the situation in Niger, one not related maybe to terrorism attack, maybe more about European control. Alors, mon frère, qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous dire, par exemple, sur le Niger et les Européens, ce qui se passe actuellement?
Voilà.
Ça ne concerne pas forcément les terroristes.
Oui, il faut dire que ce qui se passe, et si on doit être vraiment vrai, il faut dire que ces puissances, notamment la France, font une guerre en Afrique par procuration. Voilà, ils financent, c'est-à-dire tout ce que les groupes terroristes disposent comme moyens d'attaque et autres, leur ont été attribués par la France. Voilà, maintenant nous sommes en difficulté parce que cette même France-là qui finance ces groupes terroristes est cette même France-là qui s'est dit, donc au devant de nos différentes armées, qui souvent même donnent des ordres ou vraiment empêchent un certain nombre d'attaques au fait. Voilà, donc c'est ce qui explique le fait que nous sommes remontés parce que nous sommes convaincus que cette France-là n'est pas pour l'évolution de la situation. Voilà, parce qu'elle a vraiment les moyens qu'il faut pour nous aider, si effectivement elle voulait nous aider à lutter contre le terrorisme. Malheureusement, elle se positionne juste pour défendre ses intérêts et non pas pour travailler à faire évoluer la situation. Au contraire, même, on pourrait dire qu'elle travaille à ce que la situation s'empire parce qu'elle, ça l'arrange dans la gestion donc, de ses affaires. Okay. Donc, c'est ce que, de manière générale, les différentes communautés ont compris et c'est ce qui justifie les attaques régulières de la population qui demande effectivement le départ de cette France-là qui n'a plus rien à faire ici après ce qu'elle a prouvé.
Okay, so the brother is being more specific about the first question you asked. And when he talked about the terrorism attack, and those organizations were organizing and financially helping those terrorists, now he's putting a name on it and he's calling the French government. So the French government hiding in a way, but they are paying the weapon, they are paying the people to put that fear on this territory. But in the same way, the French government appeared to be here to help those people. So now the people just realize that it cannot be longer. This situation cannot last because obviously the French government is making the situation way more difficult for the people because they have to save their own interests. They don't want Burkina Faso or Niger to rise. They like it like that, so the people will not have control of their own country and their own soul, because obviously this is what they want. The soul, what the minerals they have there. So this is what the brother just said.
Thank you very much, my sister. It looks like our brother is having a technical issue because his screen is buffering at the moment. So we're gonna have to wait for his return as it stands. My sister Bakuma, I've just realized I neglected to introduce you to brother Olatunji, who is also on the screen. So I apologize for that.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, Sister Bakuma. Wonderful work you're doing.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm gonna try and reconnect our brother. I'm not sure what's happening here, but I think you can see that his screen is not connecting. Brother Kayende, can you hear us? I wonder if it's just his screen and his audio is still with us. No, he can't seem to hear us. All right, well we'll see what can happen kings and queens. So do stay tuned. If you have a question for Brother Kayende, or anybody on the panel for that matter, feel free to type it in the chat, family. We are multi-streaming through to Alkebu-Lan Way and also Gotkush TV, on your internet platforms. And so wherever you're watching from, give thanks. The Messiah lives, Garvey lives. We are celebrating the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, and the UNIA-ACL family for providing the black print, as Brother Leader Bandaka was saying earlier, for us in terms of the vision of a redeemed Africa and the organizational infrastructure that it would take to see that vision become a reality, kings and queens. And so we are speaking to our brother Kayende, who is in Burkina Faso. We were scheduled to have guests also from Nigeria and Ghana, at least, as well as Sierra Leone. Now our brother and sister in Sierra Leone have sent their apologies because it is currently lights out in Freetown. So them now the electricity right here now, and it may not come back until Monday, kings and queens. Kulichagulia day, and I just saw it go when you're organizing on the continent sometimes. I'm remembering a song from Fela and Nicola Pakuti. Well, many songs from Fela and Nicola Pakuti, but the one that comes to my mind at the moment is Original Sufferhead. Where he goes through all of the utilities that we require as African people in our home nations, and how the neo-colonial structure is impeding our access to basic things like food, water, electricity, and how Africa has plenty sun, more sun than anywhere else, that is tailor-made for solar energy, for example. But the neo-colonial situation will not allow that particular situation to come about. And because the neo-colonial so-called leaders that we have here are impeding that growth. And these are issues that we still have today. And Fela Kuti wrote that song in the 1970s, I believe. So, or was that 180? That one's that 1980s. Original Suffer is the 1980s one, all right?
I think that's 80s,
Egypt 80 band. You know what I'm saying? Original. So, our ancestors have been talking about these things from a long time, and now we're just inheriting the legacy and trying to solve those problems. Our brother Kayende is still trying to get on, so we'll give him a few more minutes. But we got to a critical point in the conversation. Just now, in terms of what is currently taking place, on the African continent, in terms of the coups that have taken place, and our brother Kayende was breaking down the fact that there is a so-called terrorist situation, but our people in Burkina Faso realized that the so-called terrorists were being funded by France, whilst France and the French military were also claiming to be the saviors of the people in terms of solving the problem. And so we have our brother back. Thank you. Please let our brother know I said thank you for his persistence in returning to us.
Merci, le frère te remercie beaucoup de faire l'effort de revenir malgré les problèmes de connexion. Est-ce que tu nous entends, frère Kayende?
Oui, je vous entends très bien. Effectivement, c'est lié à un problème de réseau.
All right.
Uncle Olatunji, did you have a question for our brother?
Not right now, Brother Shaka. I'm not just it's going through. I think it's developing nice. I say we're at a critical point now. So I'd really like to hear him expand on the current situation, especially the role of France, whose name crops up everywhere now, particularly in West Africa.
Yes. Well, on that point, could Brother Kayende, could you expand upon the nature of the relationship between France and Burkina Faso as a means of explaining why the people feel so impassioned by the need to get rid of the French imposition?
Mon frère, est-ce que tu peux nous expliquer les relations qui ont été mises en place entre la France et le Burkina Faso qui font qu'aujourd'hui, les gens se réveillent et ne veulent plus du tout de relations entre la France et le Burkina Faso?
Est-ce que je peux répéter la question, s'il vous plaît? Je n'ai pas bien cerné.
Est-ce que tu peux nous expliquer quelles sont les relations entre la France et le Burkina Faso Et quand je parle des relations, c'est tout ce qui a mis à mal le pays. Ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, les gens se rebellent parce qu'ils comprennent que la France ne veut pas de bons intérêts pour le Burkina Faso.
Ok. Au fait, il faut dire que la relation qui lie le Burkina et les pays de la sous-région à la France de manière générale n'est pas une relation d'amitié sincère, une relation dans laquelle nos États peuvent tirer profit de cette politique-là. Voilà. Ce sont généralement des contrats que la France a imposés à nos États. Ce n'est pas de contrats gagnant-gagnant. Ce n'est pas de contrats qui ont été négociés, pensés et signés par nos dirigeants, au fait. Voilà. Ce sont des contrats.
Je vais traduire la première partie, mon frère. He says that the relationship between France and Burkina Faso are everything but friendship or win-win connection. They force the African or Burkina Faso government to accept situation in a way that France will always win and Burkina Faso will always lose. So I'm going to leave him to let him continue. Vas-y, mon frère, tu peux continuer.
Alors, il faut dire que ce sont des contrats également qui datent depuis la colonisation. Ce n'est pas des contrats récents, au fait. Que ce soit nos accords sur le plan militaire, nos accords sur les accords miniers, au fait, et autres, ce n'est pas des accords qui sont régulièrement révisés en fonction de l'évolution sociopolitique donc, de nos États. Voilà, ce sont des contrats qui ont été signés, la plupart en tout cas depuis la colonisation, et parce que c'est cette France-là qui a le pouvoir décisionnel, ces contrats sont toujours en vigueur, en tout cas avant donc la prise de pouvoir de Ibrahim Traoré, le digne fils du pays.
So it says that those contracts that the French government put in are not new. They are here since the colonization, even before we were so-called independent. So since that time, French are still the power on those contracts. And obviously, because they have the power, they refuse to put any review regarding how the country evolves socially or politically. So this is how the French government treats people of Burkina Faso because of those contracts they put in on the country. And those contracts are related to the military situation, how they're going to extract all those minerals from the soil in Burkina Faso. And as he said, as they have the power, it doesn't allow the Burkina Faso people to have any review. So those contracts are still the same since the colonization. So more than 60 years now.
Right. And so was our brother finished?
Mon frère, est-ce que tu as autre chose à dire?
Voilà, donc je peux terminer en disant que voilà, c'est ce qui justifie aujourd'hui, c'est la prise de conscience au fait. Parce qu'avant, notamment dans les anciens régimes, les gouvernements précédents, ces contrats existaient, mais étant donné que nos dirigeants cautionnaient ce qui se faisait, en réalité, la population n'était pas informée de la situation réelle, de la relation qui nous liait avec la France au fait. Voilà, maintenant que cette population-là a pris conscience du rôle que joue la France dans nos affaires et dans la lutte contre le terrorisme, cette population-là a décidé de demander à la France de partir tout simplement et de nous laisser nous occuper proprement de nos affaires parce que nous avons les moyens de le faire.
So to finish, he said that now, because of the new government they have, the people are now aware of this contract. They are now aware of how the French is controlling Burkina Faso in so many ways, in so many angles. But the previous government, the previous president Burkina Faso had, they were hiding all that. So the population didn't know, they weren't aware. So now the people realize what the situation is. They realize it's the real situation between France and Burkina Faso. Now the people are standing up and they want the French government to leave out the country and to let the people deal with themselves.
Okay. And Brother Kayende, are you aware of America's involvement at all in Burkina Faso? It's fine if you're not, but are you aware of America, and particularly through institutions like Afrikan, and what role it's playing either in Burkina Faso or in the region at the moment?
Le frère demande, est-ce que tu aurais des informations sur comment les Américains, eux aussi, auraient une influence sur le pays du Burkina Faso, et plus précisément à travers une organisation qui s'appelle Africom. Bon, si tu ne connais pas, ce n'est pas grave, mais il demande quand même, est-ce que tu es au courant des actifs des Américains au Burkina Faso?
Et il faut dire que j'en ai entendu parler maintenant et je ne peux pas rentrer en détail parce que je n'ai pas une idée claire de la politique que cette institution-là mène au Burkina Faso ou encore dans la sous-région.
He doesn't heard anything about American involvement in Burkina Faso so far, so he cannot say anything about it.
Understood. And I have two more questions. Yeah, the first one is in relation to the military takeover of the country. Now, I don't mind telling him that many of our Pan-Africanists in around the world, are very skeptical of the military takeover because of the history of military takeovers in Mama Africa and throughout the African world. What is the feeling on the ground about this current military takeover, and what would he like to inform us of as Africans in the diaspora about how we should see and view this military takeover from the perspective of Africans on the ground in Burkina Faso?
Okay, when you talk about military invasion, is it the French one or other countries?
No, sorry, the current what's the brother's name? Remind me of his name. The brother Traoré. In Burkina Faso, who has taken over. How should we be viewing? Well, first of all, what are the people saying about his administration, and what would he like us to know about his administration? As I said, a lot of us we're looking on with caution, in terms of the developments in Burkina Faso. Whilst we like some of what is being said, we're waiting to see what is being done, because the track record of military takeovers in Africa doesn't often bode well for what's about to take place. So.
Ok. Mon frère, est-ce que tu m'entends?
Oui, je vous entends.
Donc là, il te demande si est-ce que tu pourrais nous en dire plus sur les changements militaires qui ont été mis en place par le frère Traoré. Je ne sais pas si je le dis bien. Tu connais?
Traoré.
Alors, comme eux, ce sont des panafricains qui ne sont pas sur le continent, beaucoup de panafricains dans le monde se demandent, mais comment est-ce que les mouvements du frère sont perçus? Parce que pour l'instant, on est assez loin, et on sait qu'à chaque fois qu'un frère sur le continent veut prendre position militairement, ça ne se finit pas très bien pour la personne. Donc, qu'est-ce que tu peux nous dire sur cette personne? Qu'est-ce que tu peux nous dire sur ce mouvement? Et comment est-ce que c'est perçu sur le continent?
Ok, merci pour la question. Il faut dire que le régime de Traoré est arrivé et suite donc à un premier coup d'État, notamment dans le pays voisin qui est le Mali. Voilà, et ce sont à peu près les mêmes idéologies qui sont partagées. Voilà, donc vous allez voir que autour de nous, notamment dans nos pays voisins, notamment le Mali ou encore la Guinée, le coup d'État ou encore cette politique, cette vision que M. Traoré est en train de vouloir mettre en place est salutaire. Et également pour les panafricains, c'est un ouf de soulagement parce que ce qui est en train d'être mis en place, c'est effectivement ce que tout Africain digne de nom, tout panafricain prône. Maintenant, il faut dire que pour les autres pays, notamment nos pays voisins, la Côte d'Ivoire, le Ghana, le Togo, qui sont toujours sous des régimes donc, démocratiques, critiquent négativement ce qui donc se passe. Voilà, donc il y a deux appréciations différentes vis-à-vis de la politique de M. Ibrahim Traoré, le capitaine Ibrahim Traoré. Voilà. Il y a les panafricains qui saluent ce qu'il fait parce qu'ils sont convaincus que c'est la voie qu'il faut emprunter. Et de l'autre côté, il y a donc les démocrates ou encore ceux qui sont toujours sous la direction des pays comme la France et autres, qui critiquent, qui font tout pour que ça échoue. Donc, c'est ce que je peux dire.
So what the brother respond is that Traoré starts this rebellion movement after some rebellion movement happened in Mali. So from the Malian perspective or Burkina Faso perspective or Niger perspective, what he's doing is okay. The Pan-African people are pretty happy of that rebellion happening. Now, to a comparison, that's why he explained, if you take, for example, the point of view of Ivory Coast or Ghana or Togo, because they are still under those kind of influence, obviously, they will tell you that Traoré is the devil. So we have to pay attention to who give us the information. Yes.
Thank you, my brother. And from a Garveyite perspective, if we're forwarding the teachings and the ambitions, the legacy of Papa Garvey and the Pan-Africanist fight, what would he see as the solutions or some of the solutions to the problems within Mama Africa, specifically as it relates to the region at the moment? And how would he like to see the governments? What actions would he like to see them taking going forward from a Pan-African and a Garveyite perspective?
Le frère te demande, comme tu es garvéiste et comme tu es panafricain, donc avec ce point de vue-là et cette connaissance que tu as, quelle serait pour toi la solution pour que la situation actuelle que l'on connaît au Niger puisse se résoudre, ou quelles seraient les solutions à long terme pour que l'Afrique puisse se développer en tant que panafricain et garvéiste?
Ok, merci. Alors, il faut dire que à l'instant T, c'est-à-dire actuellement, ce qu'il faut faire, c'est la mise en garde au fait. Mobiliser la population à veiller et à soutenir donc ces dirigeants-là. Parce que ce sont des gens qui risquent quotidiennement leur vie pour le bien-être de l'Afrique de manière générale.
Alors, quand tu dis les dirigeants, c'est quels dirigeants, s'il te plaît?
Bon, je peux citer notre dirigeant Ibrahim Traoré, je peux citer Assami Goïta, Bon, pour le Niger, c'est très récent, donc on ne peut pas apprécier avec justesse ce qu'ils vont mettre en place comme politique. On attend de voir. Mais pour le président Assami Goïta du Mali et Ibrahim Traoré du Burkina, on est convaincu qu'au regard des décisions prises et au regard de la politique qui est en train d'être mise en place, c'est ce qu'il faut pour le salut de notre continent. Voilà.
Alors, je vais traduire déjà cette partie. Donc, the brother is explaining that so far, at today's date, what's happening in Burkina Faso or in Mali is really what we needed. This is what we wanted. And the people have to follow up and support those people like Traoré or Guarta in Mali. Obviously, regarding the Niger, it's pretty recent. So we really don't know who is acting, what are the reasons. So for this side, we have to wait. But for some people who are already in the fight, who are already putting some action, obviously the solution from today would be to support them.
Okay.
Alors, je t'écoute, mon frère. Et go on.
Voilà, maintenant, ici, sur du long terme pour le salut de notre continent, voilà, il faut mettre l'accent sur l'éducation sincère et honnête de nos populations, de la jeunesse. Parce que le véritable problème et mal que vit le continent africain, c'est l'ignorance, au fait. C'est l'ignorance en masse des populations. C'est cette ignorance-là qui permet donc aux impérialistes de toujours coloniser par des différentes politiques et de faire marcher les différents plans. Voilà. Donc, sur du long terme, il va falloir penser à mettre en place des mécanismes qui puissent permettre à nos jeunes frères d'avoir une éducation qui puisse leur permettre d'être suffisamment outillés sur donc les valeurs ancestrales africaines. Voilà, c'est cette connaissance de soi-là, cette connaissance des valeurs africaines qui va nous permettre d'avoir des citoyens modèles, des citoyens exemplaires, des citoyens qui vont pouvoir penser africain et promouvoir le développement donc endogène. Voilà, donc sur du long terme, il va falloir penser, mettre en place des mécanismes ou encore structures éducatives qui puissent permettre à la population d'être suffisamment éclairée pour faire avancer donc notre continent.
So the first part of the response was at today's date, like, but the second part is in a long way. So he said that to make sure that Africa rise, so in 5 or 10 years or 20 years from now, the situation would be to have structures about education of the youthness, make real people realize that the fact that we have this disease, that we don't know our own history, we don't realize that the colonization never ended. It keep coming back to different form. But because we don't know, we don't realize what's going on now. But if we have structured educational young people, they will see how it is and they will understand the importance to get back to the African value. So as growing up, there will be African citizen with African value who will fight for Africa.
Beautiful. In fact, on that point, there has been some talk about Burkina Faso and Mali getting rid of the colonial border between them and forming one nation. Is this something that you will be in support of, my brother? And are the people on the ground aware of this idea? And is this something that our people in Burkina Faso are supporting?
Le frère te demande, est-ce que tu es au courant que la frontière qui a été créée par le blanc entre le Burkina Faso et le Mali, petit à petit commence à ne plus exister pour que le Burkina Faso et le Mali ne deviennent qu'une seule grande nation? Est-ce que tu es au courant de ça? Est-ce que les gens sont au courant de ça au Burkina Faso?
Oui, effectivement, les gens sont au courant de ce qui se passe actuellement, notamment et cette volonté manifeste des dirigeants du Burkina et du Mali d'unir donc leurs forces et de faire disparaître les barrières qu'avait établies le colon. Voilà,
Of
et
course,
en guise d'exemple,
people are obviously aware of this situation that Burkina Faso and Mali borders forced by the colonizer before should not existed anymore.
Right.
Vas-y, continue, mon frère.
Voilà, je voulais illustrer ce fait-là pour dire que lorsque au Niger, il y a eu le coup d'État et que des voix se sont levées pour dire qu'ils vont intervenir militairement, le gouvernement malien et le gouvernement burkinabé ont fait un communiqué conjoint pour dire donc à ces éventuels attaqueurs donc du Niger qu'ils se heurtent également au Burkina et au Mali. C'est-à-dire, ils ont fait un communiqué commun, voilà, pour interpeller quiconque voudra attaquer le Niger de prendre donc ses distances. Voilà,
Ok.
donc c'est un message fort pour moi à partir du moment où ces deux gouvernements se réunissent et font un communiqué commun. Voilà, ça veut dire déjà beaucoup de choses.
So, as an example, as Burkina Faso and Mali want to get rid of these borders, it gives us the situation now of the Niger. So, he explained us that Mali and Burkina Faso government speak as one voice and say that to all the countries, all the people who want to have another influence on Niger to make sure that they cannot get their freedom, then you will have to deal with us too. And they speak as one voice. So this is a perfect example the brother is giving us to remind us that effectively Burkina Faso and Mali are acting like one nation. There's no borders anymore.
All right, understood. This is my final question. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my final question. There was a question in our chat earlier about the fact that our brothers and sisters on the continent of Mama Africa do not consider Africans outside of Mama Africa as a part of the Pan-African struggle, yeah, quote unquote. All right, I'm using that was the terminology that was used, yeah.
Okay.
And so, I want to know from Brother Kayende, does he and our brothers and sisters in Burkina Faso see Africans from the Caribbean and North, South, and Central America as Africans first and foremost, and also a part of the Pan-African liberation fight?
Okay, I'm going to translate the question to the brother, and when he's going to give us his answer, I would like to give my answer.
Feel free, my sister. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed.
Ok, donc mon frère, là, c'est la dernière question. Et
Okay.
il dit que quelqu'un a posé une question dans les commentaires, à savoir
Ok.
que les frères de la Caraïbe sentent
Ok.
que en Afrique, on ne les considère pas vraiment comme des Africains ou comme des Panafricains. Est-ce que toi qui es au Burkina Faso, tu peux nous dire comment les Caraïbéens sont perçus? Est-ce qu'on voit les Caraïbéens comme des Africains, comme des Panafricains ou pas?
Ok, c'est une question vraiment complexe à répondre.
This is a tough question, he said.
Voilà, et maintenant, je pense que nous avons un regard positif envers eux. Voilà, ce que nous pouvons dire, c'est leur demander davantage d'engagement, voilà, notamment sur le plan panafricain. Et ça va convaincre davantage donc les autres Africains à les considérer comme des panafricains à part entière. Voilà, c'est leur dire que on les considère comme nous-mêmes. Voilà, qu'ils soient davantage engagés et ils verront davantage donc cette considération-là.
The brother said that our brother in Caribbean places, different Caribbean places in the world, are seen in a positive perspective from the people in Burkina Faso. And the more the Caribbean people will involve themselves in the Pan-African fight, the more the African people in the motherland will see them as African brothers and sisters. Yes.
Beautiful. Well, if your brother Kayende is finished, feel free, Bakuma, Sister Bakuma, take it over.
Okay, so there is a lot of Caribbean people in French too, the French Caribbean,
Yes,
Martinique, Guadeloupe. And
Yes.
this question, we have this since I was a kid, and I'm nearly 40 now. And this question is still around us.
Yes.
I've been to Cameroon last year for a spiritual, event. And we were me and brothers and sisters from Africa, yeah, and other sisters from the Caribbean, the French Caribbean. And the way the sisters from the Caribbean has been received, they were expected there. It's like, oh, you're from Africa, you already know the stuff. But for the sister from the Caribbean, the way the people welcomed them, it was a real return to home. So answer to this question, I would say that unfortunately, all the Black people are not African because they don't feel African. Most Black people in the world, they see them as white person regarding the hair, regarding the skin. So should we consider an African person if they don't consider themselves African? That's also part of the question. And regarding the Caribbean brothers and sisters, I would say just like the brother did, if you feel like you're African and you want to go back to Africa, you want to go back to your roots, of course, you're one of us. You know, there is something, I don't know if it's the same for the English Caribbean places, but there is this idea that African people back then, through the slavery, they sold Black people. So many Caribbean people see us like, oh, you sold us to the other people. So you didn't like us since day one. So since day one, we were not brothers and sisters. We were not related because slavery happened because of African people. So you see, there is all this perspective that makes the subject very complicated to debate on. For example, the French Caribbean people here, they have a French ID. They're Black, but they're French. If you're from Cameroon, Senegal, Ghana, or whatever, and you come to settle down in France, you will be an African. They will see themselves as a French because they have the French ID. They don't have to go through all the humiliating process to get the document in France, for example. You see. So I would say that it depends. You can be from the Caribbean and feel more African than somebody raised and born in Africa. Because if you look at, for example, Congo, till now, 2023, the whiter it is, the best it is. You know, they're born and raised there. Most of them, many people doesn't even speak the language back home, but they're born and raised there because they always have that ideology that what is coming from abroad is always better than themselves.
Yes.
So the subject is very difficult. I think we will need years and maybe, I don't know how many years.
I hear you.
If you feel African inside, then Africa is your place, obviously.
100%. Let me just say this. First of all, yes, that dynamic does exist in the English-speaking world, very much so. And I can't imagine that it's worse in the French-speaking African world than it is in the English-speaking African world. It's terrible, yeah. And I have to go to war with these people on quite a regular basis. The only problem with it is that it's so very obvious that those who bring and front that narrative do so out of an allegiance to Western corporate and national interest. So they don't seem to be as hostile to the American identity or the British identity or the French identity as they are to the African identity. And if they were being consistent, if they were being consistent, they would say, well, the Africans sold us and the Europeans enslaved us, so we're rejecting all of those things. Yeah, if they were being consistent. But they're not. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's hypocrisy that we're dealing with at the end of the day. It's colonial mentality that we're dealing with at the end of the day. And we're dealing with Africans who do not want to confront their anti-Africanness. And so are trying to find excuses for sustaining it. Having said that, I have been to 2 nations on the African continent thus far, namely Ghana and Sierra Leone. And I can say, without equivocation, there is nowhere in the world that I, as an African, have been welcomed more, than when I'm on the African continent. Especially being an African, who is at least partly from Jamaica, and especially being an African man who wears locks, I get love. Anywhere I go on the road, people recognize, people look upon me and them say, and embrace me and all that thing there. So I can't, now, that's not to say that everybody on the continent has that consciousness, but I'm saying generally speaking, our people back home are very, very welcoming. Yeah. And so we need to appreciate that. Now, obviously, when it comes to being able engaging in organizational work, Pan-African activism, then that presents other dynamics. Yeah. But we need to be mindful of the fact that as Africans from the diaspora, we are African, whether or not a brother or sister from the continent recognizes us as such or not. Yes, it's not dependent upon that dynamic, and so no rejection from a brother or sister from Burkina Faso or Congo, South Africa or Ghana should inspire us to negate and reject our or question our Africanness. If we're doing that, then we're just weak in our heart and need some strength. All right. What I'm gonna do? Sorry, Uncle Tuji, was you gonna say something?
Yeah, just to quickly add, we also need to take into account what Sister Zilidanta calls the colonial narrative that has impact both on the motherland and in the diaspora. So we don't always appreciate or love the impact of colonialism on what people knowledge of history in the motherland. And clearly we do know that a lot of us in the diaspora have been miseducated anyway. Yes. And I think there is some just what you might call circumstantial ignorance. But there's some which is very, very pernicious agenda going on as well, and I think that the latter thing is probably more of a problem, because, like I said, there are those who are clearly quite happy with an allegiance to European ideology and imperialism against Africa and against Africans, and we have to realize there's a political dimension to that, an historical dimension to that as well, which has been manufactured and fostered, but we still need to fight it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Give thanks for that, Uncle Tunji. Sister Bakuma, please communicate to Brother Kayende. We're going to let him go now. We thank him for being here, and if he has any closing words, for our viewers, and in his closing words, could he please share how we can keep in touch with him? Is he via social media or any other website or anything like that? Let us know how we can keep in touch with him.
Ok. Mon frère Kayende, j'ai traduit ce que le frère t'a demandé et j'ai apporté aussi ma part de réponse. Donc, il demande si tu as un dernier mot avant de se quitter, et aussi si tu veux partager tes réseaux sociaux pour que tu puisses rester en contact avec les gens qui ont suivi le live.
Oh, sorry. I had muted my brother. Go ahead.
Mon frère, est-ce que tu nous entends? Il y avait le mute sur le micro.
Ok, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Je n'avais pas bien
cerné. On t'entend très légèrement.
Très légèrement. C'est bon maintenant ou...
Oui, c'est bon.
Ok. Je n'avais pas bien cerné votre question, s'il vous plaît.
Donc, comme on va se quitter, est-ce que tu as un dernier mot à dire? Et aussi, est-ce que tu peux donner, si besoin, tes réseaux sociaux ou ton site internet pour que les gens puissent continuer à suivre ton activité?
Ok. Bon, j'ai pas grand-chose à dire si ce n'est saluer l'initiative. Leur dire grandement merci vraiment pour avoir pensé organiser ce live. Voilà, remercier également et tous ceux qui ont aménagé le temps pour suivre. Voilà, leur dire que c'est noble ce qu'ils ont fait. C'est pour la cause de Kama et que nous sommes tous engagés jour et nuit pour le bien-être de notre mère patrie. Voilà, et que... Allez-y.
Il n'a pas grand-chose à dire. He doesn't have much to say. Just to thank you for this time you're taking, for you to organize it, for the people in the audience who took time to listen to what he had to say. This is a very noble cause, and all together we are fighting it day and night to raise Africa back to what it was. Continue, mon frère.
Voilà, leur signifier également le fait que nous sommes disposés Voilà, nous sommes disposés et tout ce qu'ils voudront savoir sur le Burkina ou et dans les pays environnants, voilà, il peut bien sûr compter sur ma bonne volonté de leur accompagner.
Est-ce que tu as un réseau social, Instagram ou Facebook, un site internet?
Et non, mes publications sont relativement sur Facebook.
Alors, quel est ton Facebook? Est-ce que tu peux épeler ton Facebook, s'il te plaît?
Pardon?
Est-ce que tu peux épeler ton Facebook? Comme ça, les gens vont te
Oui,
suivre sur Facebook.
Bien sûr, c'est Kayande.
Oui.
Kayande Patrice, le nom du Facebook.
D'accord. Okay, so the brother says that whenever you need any information, any details about the situation in Burkina Faso or any country around, feel free to reach him. So he's only available on Facebook. And his Facebook is his name, so Kayende, as you can see it. So Kayende, and his name is Patrice. Patrice. So this is his name on Facebook, and people can just reach him out there.
All right, thank you once again, Brother Kayende. I'm going to put you both in the back chat now, in backstage now. You can feel free to stay and listen. Yeah, from backstage, we're going to have a close from our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka. Thank you both. Thank you to Brother Kayende. Bakuma, you've been a lifesaver. We appreciate you, and no doubt we're gonna have you back on our platforms once again in more ways than one, because we've been behind the scenes. So we're gonna make it happen. All right?
You have to catch up the time.
Yeah, 100%, my sister. Yeah. So anytime you're ready, just call up. You know, I'm here. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Après, on peut se déconnecter ou attendre dans la chambre, la salle d'attente. C'est comme on veut.
Ok, ça peut aller. Grandement merci.
Thank you.
Merci. Okay, kings and queens, we were just speaking to Brother Kayende and Sister Bakuma, who was our translator for the evening. Translation is such a important role, that we need in our African liberation fight, kings and queens. All right, I saw some conversation in the chat about the need for translation, and we've got various different languages. We need translation between European languages, we need translation between African languages and European languages, and we also need translation between African languages, family. And so we appreciate the translators, and I believe that it should be an endeavor of all universal African nationalists, Pan-Africanist parents to raise at least bilingual children, because our fight demands it, our fight requires it. And so, we give thanks to those of us who have taken the time, or through just the circumstances of life, have learned more than one language and utilized that service for the benefit of our communications as African people around the world. We hope that you have taken a lot from the conversation thus far. Just to announce for anybody who's coming through late, our conversation is a part of the Messiah season. Garvey lives, Messiah lives.
Messiah lives.
We are in the month of Messiah, and so we are looking at the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, and the UNIA-ACL, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities League. And so one of the topics that we have addressed previously, in fact, by our spiritual leader, Brother Leader Bandaka, is the impact of the Garvey movement on the motherland, historically speaking, during the time of Papa Garvey. And so there are a number of UNIA-ACL branches on the continent at the moment, in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in Nigeria, in what have I missed? Ghana. And our brother Kayende is in link with Chief Fode, who is a commissioner of West Africa, and there is a possibility of a branch developing in Burkina Faso also. There may also be one in a couple of nations in East Africa, but I'm gonna leave that information on the table right about now. I'll be under the table right about now until a more appropriate time. Yeah. And so our aim today was to bring a number of the representatives of those branches together to introduce them to you as the Pan-African world, and to also look at the work here that is being done on the continent of Mama Africa in the name of Mosiah. Yeah. Now, our commissioner of West Africa, of the West African region, Chief Fode, and president of the Freetown branch of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020, Sister Kenya, were affected by the lack of electricity currently in Freetown. Yeah, and they may not get their electricity back until Kulichagulia Day Monday, which is why they were unable to join us, and they were the ones who really coordinated those who were supposed to be here today. And so a couple of our brothers and sisters were not able to make it. So we are going to have to come back to this topic at some point. Yeah. And brother Fode has said it to me in the text that we have to run it back at some point, because this has to go on again. But we give thanks to the ancestors, and maybe at this moment this was supposed to be the conversation because of where our brother is situated, yeah, which is in Burkina Faso, which is a very pivotal arena in terms of the current dynamics of Mama Africa in general and West Africa in particular as it stands. And so we are eternally grateful for our brother availing his time, yes, to come and speak to us and introduce himself to us, and for the work that he's trying to do in Burkina Faso, raising up the youth in the name of Mosiah, kings and queens. I'm going to bring on our spiritual leader for the closing words now, but just before I do so, Brother Olatunji, anything that you want to share before I do so?
Right. No, it's, even though we weren't able to get the guests we wanted to get, I think the message that's clear is that the work is going on in the motherland in the name of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Oftentimes, us in the African world community ask what's going on in the motherland, and stuff is going on in the motherland, sister and brother. Just so we don't hear about it because it's not in BBC or Channel 4 or Sky or CNN or NBC's interest to publicize what's going on in the motherland. But be assured that the little snippet we heard tonight is some indication, pivotally in Burkina Faso. So we just need to ensure that we make these links, and we're looking forward to the time we get all the scheduled guests back on again. Certainly Chief Fode, Queen Kenya, and really just it's kind of ironic in terms of an indication of the situation we find ourselves in, that that the electricity has prevented this from happening this evening. It's work we need to do and where we need to think on, especially when we think about the legacy of the Garvey movement in the motherland, which I'm sure Brother Leader will make reference to as well.
100%, especially if we look at the relationship between Niger and France, and the role that Niger plays in ensuring that France has electricity. Well, that's a topic for another time, and maybe we may be blessed to hear Brother Leader touch on that also. Let me add that we will be returning next week. Sorry, this week. No, next week. Next week, New Day, Thursday, with this particular topic. Now, this is the 100th year since the 100th anniversary of the publishing of Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And so we have another international panel scheduled for that one, featuring many members of the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 and other brothers and sisters around the world. And we're just going to be engaging in some conversation around the significance, importance, and impact of this text. We're also going to be honoring Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey as the agent of the compilation of this particular text. In fact, all three of the texts, volumes 1, 2, and 3, or volumes 1, 2, and more, Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And following that, to extend our honoring of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey on the 27th of the month called Mosiah, we will be hosting our sister Sheila Brown, Sister Sheila Brown, on the topic of our women and what they think the life and legacy of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. I promise you, brothers and sisters, you don't want to miss this one. Our sister is very knowledgeable about the life and legacy of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, but she also carries the spirit, of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, and you will see that manifest in her presentation. And she doesn't shy away from the difficult issues and that we need to be addressing and tackling and learning the lessons from in terms of Mama Amy Jakes Garvey's life and legacy. So we're ever grateful for her. We look forward to having her. So do come through for that on the 27th of the month called Messiah, also streaming on Alkebu-Lan Way, and also got Kush TV. I should also add that every Kulichagulia Day, every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. from 7 to 10 p.m. UK time, we are live on Galaxy Radio with Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. This coming Kujichagulia Day, we have an extremely important topic.
That's right.
Yes. We have our sister Cow, who is joining us from Liberia. And for those who are not aware, this year, 2023, represents the original end of the 99-year lease, that the government, the neo-colonial government of Liberia under President King, granted to the Firestone Rubber Company in 1924. Okay, it was a 99-year lease, and they sold land at a price of something like 6 or 10 cents an acre or some stupidity.
6 cents an acre.
6 cents an acre, Not
a
only
million acres.
And a million acres, you said?
Yeah, a million acres, 6 cents an acre,
Which Africans, in Liberia on the ground had to cut through forest, with some machete and some cutlass to prepare that land for Firestone. And so what we're going to be doing is looking at the history of Firestone in Liberia from the time of Papa Garvey until now. Okay, it's an extremely important topic, and so I urge brothers and sisters, check out alkebulan.org, Alkebu-Lan, ALKEBULAN.org. Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan tab, and you'll be able to find the information for the show. And joining us this coming Kulichagulia Day between 7 and 10 p.m., which corresponds to the hours of 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. EST. If you are on Eastern Standard Time. And with that, brothers and sisters, without further ado, I'm going to bring forward the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement, ambassador and commissioner for the UNIA-ACL RC 2020 in the UK, and initiator, proclaimer, heralder of the month of Mosiah. He goes by the name of Brother Leader Bandaka. Tendai Mwali, Brother Leader. You're on mute, Brother Leader. Brother Leader, you're muted. Let me see if I can unmute Brother Leader. No, I can't unmute you, Brother Leader. You're on mute.
Tendai Mwari.
Now we can hear you. Good. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Tendai Mwari being bamboozled by technology. Tendai Mwari. Yeah, giving thanks and praises, Brother Shakara, Brother Olatunji. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
You live. Tendai Mwari. But we give thanks and praises unto Mwari Nyakusika, God, the creator of the universe, through Mudumu Mukuro, our great ancestors, for blessing us so richly this evening together, as we have done in our virtual hall of faith, our virtual hall of learning, to continue to enhance our knowledge and our understanding, and prayerfully our commitment to fulfilling not just understanding, but fulfilling the legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We say again that Papa Garvey gave us the black print for our liberation. And so if we're ever going to be a free people ever again, we must study profoundly, understand well, and implement with zeal the philosophy, the teachings, and the example of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We are thankful this evening for the blessing we have received from this Mosiah community session where we give thanks, let me say firstly, to Brother Olatunji and Brother Shakara, the curators of this evening's program, and in particular for Brother Shakara for his insightful exploration of our young brother Kayende's work and commitment to our people's liberation, and also to tender for bringing in Sister Bakuma. I hope I've said her name correctly. Sister Bakuma, who did the translation and much more, because she also shared some of her own thoughts, her own ideas, and her own analysis of our experience as African people. I'm just always full of joy when I am able to witness young Africans or Africans significantly younger than myself on Liberation Road demonstrating a serious commitment to our people's liberation. And it warmed my heart to sit back and listen to Brother Kayende and Sister Bakuma this evening. Brother Kayende, we give thanks and praises for your work, my brother, there in Burkina Faso, the land of our beloved freedom fighter, the martyred fighter for our people's liberation, Baba Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara, who paid the ultimate price, meaning he gave his life literally for the liberation of our people. And you are blessed to be in the land of Thomas Sankara as a conscious young African, thinking, living, working, and fighting for the liberation of our people. And we commend you and all young Africans in Burkina Faso who think like you and who strive to do as you do for our people. We hail you and we honor you. And I was inspired by your contributions, my brother. But I think the one that touched me the most and excited me the most was when you talked about the need for our people to return to our African traditional spiritual practices, our African spirituality. That really touched me deeply when you said that, because it gives a clear sense that you have a profound insight and understanding of our liberation as a people, that we have to see divinity in ourselves and see ourselves in divinity in order for us to even understand that there is a much higher concept of our African being, our African self, that we must attain to and we must bring to the fore again, and we must unleash upon the world again for us to be a free and self-determining people. To understand that we must embrace the spirits of our ancestors and that we must venerate our ancestors is a matter of, again, profound importance in the fight for our people's total liberation. And you demonstrated that understanding this evening, my brother. It is heartwarming to learn that Africans on the motherland are fighting for the restoration of our African spiritual and cultural traditions. Long may you continue that work and that fight. I must say, my brother, when I saw you, I thought that there was some resemblance to Thomas Sankara, which is a good thing. It warmed my heart to you even more. So just please keep pressing on with your commitment to our people's liberation. And let me just make a quick pronouncement on the present situation in Burkina Faso. Let me first of all make it absolutely clear that we within the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, as we all as African people throughout the world should do, we stand beside the people of Burkina Faso insofar as they are demanding that their lands are free of foreign invaders, that their lands are free of foreign oppressors and foreign exploiters like the French, for example, and that the land is restored to its sovereignty, that the people are restored to our sovereignty, and that the integrity of our land must be defended and protected. And so we stand by the people in their pursuit of their natural and informed will to be free and self-determining and to rid themselves of foreign oppressors. We also stand by the armies of these countries in West Africa, historically colonized by the French. We stand by misnomer Francophone Africa. We stand by these armies insofar as they are in defense of the natural and informed will of the people to be free and self-determining, which means the restoration of our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, as long as the army stands by those rights and will of our people. We also stand by the armies of these nations and these countries. And we say that unequivocally. But we also say that we must, as African people, take heed of history. We must be aware of our history. And as Brother Shakara said earlier on, that coup d'etats have not historically served the interest of our people. We need to be aware of that. We also must be aware of the role of the American government in training the leaders of these coups. We must also take care in finding out as much as we can about the track record of the leaders of these coups. To what extent in their profile do we see an orientation towards progressive thinking and progressive politics? We must concern ourselves with that, because that gives us a sense and it gives us a picture of the mindset, of the profile of these leaders, and therefore the orientation of these leaders, and a picture of how they might lead us forward, which is extremely important. But let me just say also, the question was asked as to whether Ibrahim Traore, whether the American army was in Burkina Faso, or whether there was an American military presence in Burkina Faso. Let it be known, beloved brothers and sisters, that in March of this year, the head of Afrikan, Lieutenant General Michael Langley, was interrogated by one Senator Matt Gaetz, interrogated about the fact that a number of coups have happened in West Africa, all of which the leaders of those coups have been trained by Afrikan. General Langley admitted as much, and admitted in particular that the leader of the Guinea coup Mamadi Doumbouya, and the leader of the Burkina Faso coup, Ibrahim Traore, were indeed trained by the American army. In fact, it is a matter of record that both Mamadi Doumbouya and Assimi Goïta, Mamadi Doumbouya of Guinea and Assimi Goïta of Mali were trained in 2018 in Burkina Faso by the American army as part of a training which was reserved for special forces commanders. So these are facts that are on record. And I just want to give you the reference for the YouTube. It's just a 5-minute clip of the interrogation I talked about just now. And the title for that is African Leader Claims U.S. Government Shares Values with Coup Leaders. The defense, let me read that again. African Leader Claims U.S. Government Shares Values with Coup Leaders. The defense of Lieutenant General Langley for his involvement with training African military personnel who become coup leaders was that, quote unquote, we share core values. That was his defense. We share core values. Now, I'm simply suggesting, beloved brothers and sisters, that we need to interrogate what all of this means. I'm just simply saying we can't overlook all of this. We need to look, we need to get behind, we need to dissect all of this and interrogate what all of this means to the present military status of these African nations. And where is the American army and the American government and the American CIA? Because wherever the American army is present, the American CIA is also present, providing intelligence and providing what they call covert operations. And those covert operations can be extremely deceitful, extremely, brothers and sisters, underhanded. And so we have to be very, very careful. There is evidence indeed that the American army has been present, has had a presence in Burkina Faso, and we need to explore and interrogate what this means for the present status of the military junta, not only in Burkina Faso, but all over West Africa. Beloved brothers and sisters, I want to just crown that, and as I go into my close, I want to crown that particular point with the statement promoting an understanding that when we compare anyone in military uniform with a Thomas Sankara, we must study the background of Thomas Sankara, study his whole profile from his younger years when he was instructed by a teacher of geography and history, but who was a progressive thinker who instructed a select group, of which Thomas Sankara was one, who instructed them in political thinking and analyzing the realities of what was happening in Burkina Faso at the time. That was one of the sources of Thomas Sankara when he was a very young man. One of the sources, he was still in his teens, one of the sources of his developing the critical thinking that he did. Study the history of Thomas Sankara, when Thomas Sankara was a member of the government as Minister of Information and then Prime Minister, and how he became a thorn in the side of the government because the government was a reactionary government and he was a government minister of progressive thinking, and then he was arrested and put in prison, and then the coup occurred to take him out of prison, and then that coup raised him to the position of president. But he had that history of progressive politics, history of progressive thinking before he became president. We need to know something about the profile of those men who are leading the juntas that are presiding over these African nations. Let me, brothers and sisters, conclude by saying, when it comes to the legacy of Papa Garvey, it is very important that we understand that Papa Garvey took no prisoners when it comes to the liberation of his people. He understood the complexity of the nature of our oppression as a people. And as Amilcar Cabral would say to us, we must tell no lies, always speak the truth, tell no lies, and claim no easy victories. And Thomas Sankara teaches us that a soldier who is not politically or who is not ideologically trained is a potential terrorist. A soldier who is not ideologically trained is a potential terrorist. So we must again explore the situation in West Africa. We must ask the question, to what extent are our soldiers who are behind the military junta, to what extent have they or even their leaders been ideologically trained? That is extremely important. To what extent are they grounded in a progressive ideological mode of thinking? That is profoundly important. So let me close, beloved brothers and sisters, with the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Let me just say, as far as the issue of whether Africans from the Caribbean are Africans, it goes without saying, brothers and sisters, we have Africa in our blood. We have Africa in our DNA. And wherever in the world we as African people go, that authentic identity remains ours. It's ours to claim. We are Africans, no apology. And we love and embrace our brothers and sisters on the mother continent as much as we know that the overwhelming majority of our brothers and sisters on the mother continent, especially those who have that consciousness, that Pan-African consciousness, love us and embrace us back. We close with some words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who says, "Wake up, Ethiopia. Wake up, Africa. Let us work towards the one glorious end of a free, redeemed, and mighty nation." He says, "Unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will." Rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Tendai mwari. Tendai mwari.
Tendai mwari. Sorry, brother leader.
Garvey lives. Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
Heal him.
Okay, kings and queens, that was brother leader, the spiritual leader of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, giving us the closing words and dealing with a topic that no doubt we're gonna have to come back to, family. Yeah, and so do stay tuned, because the situation in West Africa at the moment is ever evolving, And so we're going to have to keep our finger on the pulse of the issue and do more and more work to connect with brothers and sisters on the ground, yes, in terms of our analysis as well. But let us not underestimate the role that we as Africans in the diaspora play in terms of, at the very least, conscientizing our people and ensuring that the right analysis gets through to our people. They say that war is 90% psychological, kings and queens, yeah? And so for those of us who are not at the epicenter, on the front line at the moment, we have a role to play on the ideological and the propaganda front line. Our prophet, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, teaches us about the value and the necessity of good propaganda advocating on behalf of African people. And if at the very least, what we can do is engage the propaganda war, kings and queens. And so that's what we're going to be doing here via Alkebu-Lan Way, via Got Kush TV. I want to remind you, before I get to that, actually, I should actually also say I had a vibes because I was reminded of the fact that this is in fact the year, the anniversary, the 40th anniversary of the coming of Thomas Sankara to the premiership of Burkina Faso. And the date upon which that took place was in fact the 4th of Mosiah. Yeah, it was actually in this month, 40 years ago, that Baba Thomas Sankara became the president of the nation that was renamed under his leadership, Burkina Faso, the land of upright people. Yes, he got rid of the colonial Upper Volta designation and inaugurated the nation Burkina Faso. Yes, using the indigenous languages to speak about the upright nature of the people. And so we are actually honoring 40 years of his beginning, the great work, yes, that he achieves between the years of 1983 and 1987, kings and queens. So, you know, there's a lot of synergy happening in terms of what took place on our show today. And so I just want to appreciate that. And also remind you of our upcoming Mosiah sessions. First and foremost, this coming Nia Day, the 24th of Mosiah, we are addressing the subject of the 100th anniversary of the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey. We have an international panel where that is concerned. We're just going to be speaking about the significance and importance of this book and speaking about the framework, the working idealism of Garveyism, universal African nationalism, African fundamentalism, as expressed in this particular text. And the woman who is responsible for us having this particular text is Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, and we're going to be honoring her on the 27th, or Moja Day, the 27th, Sunday, the 27th of Mosiah. And so we'll be right here as well. The videos for these sessions are already up here, so do check through whatever platform you're watching on. Do check through and set your notifications from now. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you. Also, this coming Kulicha Day on Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan, we will be dealing with the history of the Firestone Rubber Company in Liberia from the time of Papa Garvey up until now. An extremely and entirely important session, kings and queens. And so I encourage you all to come through. Yes, come through for that particular session right there. If you want to know how to tune in, check alkebulan.org, ALKEBULAN.org, and you will see the tab for Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan. All the shows are updated there. And we are also hoping to be able to bring that show live for you. Sorry, the recording of that show for you via Alkebu-Lan Way and Got Kush TV also. With that, kings and queens, I hope you enjoy the rest of the month of Mosiah, and we leave you with our salutation. Tenda Mwani, be thankful unto the month, creative life force of the universe. Kozai Muzimu Mukuru, give praises unto our great ancestors, because our ancestors are worthy to be praised. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Garvey lives.
Garvey lives.
Mosiah lives.
Mosiah lives.
10 damn more, brother.
You live.
10 damn more.
Marcus Mosiah, forward and lead thy people out of Babylon.
They trying to send us another Moses, but make him lay down the inner him bed of roses. Send him on. They trying to send us another Jesus Christ, but we want a man to be betrayed for upon our rise. That's the man we really wanna see. They preaching about black unity. They preaching about black dignity. The United Negro Improvement Association. And to help black people in their troubled time. Yet still they're trying to send us another Moses fever. Make him lay down the inner him bed of roses. Send him on. They're trying to send us another Jesus Christ, so we want a man dedicated for upon our rise. That's the man we really wanna see. Go there now. God taught us to be dignified and proud of being black. He taught us that Africa was where it's at. Moses never knew about that. Yet still they're trying to send us another Moses, but make him lay down the inner him bed of roses. Send him on. They're trying to send us another Jesus Christ, so we want a man to be prayed for upon our rise. That's the man we really wanna see. Power to deliver all our we. Send him on. Go there now. Forward. That's the man we really wanna see. Power to deliver all our we. Send him on.
Marcus, Mosiah, forward and lead thy people out of Babylon. Fire, 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 fire.
They're trying to send us another Moses, but make him lay down the inner him bed of roses. taught us to be dignified and proud. He taught us that Africa was where it's at.